The 50,000-watt blowtorch. This is News Radio 1040 WHO.
$9:22 is the time. Need to know what Jeff Angelo is the program. I'm sure you've had it happen. Maybe you've gone to a meeting at the office. Maybe there's a PowerPoint. And folks are going to start using some phrases, some business speak. Well, a new survey shows most office workers believe that business speak is a sign of incompetence. And my next guest is a workplace strategist who's done research about this. Lee Smith on the line. Lee, thanks very much for joining me. Welcome to Iowa Radio.
It's great to be with you, Jeff, and being on one of America's great radio stations.
Well, it's an honor to have you, Lee. And let's talk about what are some of the phrases that coworkers hate the worst.
Well, I think the number one here in the United States has got to be to think outside the box. I mean, this is one that gets overused every day. I'm sure not a day goes by where you haven't heard it. And what's interesting about this is it's a great example of where the meaning is actually lost. And people think they understand, where it came from, but if you don't understand the origins of how a phrase like that originated, which was back in the 1970s, it was a psychological test where it was a little puzzle, if you will, where you had the only way you could actually complete the puzzle would be to go outside the constraints that your own mind put in front of you. You can look it up after the show, but it's like that's just one example. But there's plenty of examples of business speak where that if they don't know, the meaning of the term or whatever, then you've really lost a great opportunity to communicate effectively.
Yeah, another phrase on this list, Lee, is low-hanging fruit, which is something that a lot of people hear in business meetings. And when you go to a meeting, Lee, and people start using this stuff, low-hanging fruit, think outside the box, what are workers really hearing? What are they really thinking, Lee?
They're really hearing the sound of other people's eyes rolling back to the back on your head. We did a study of our own that actually supplements the study that you're speaking of.
Yeah.
And we asked, what would help you stay at your current job longer? Number one is they want more up-to-date technology and a cell phone that was made sometime in this decade.
Yeah.
But the number two thing is that they want to work with more competent coworkers. And the only thing that's worse than working with someone that's incompetent is working for somebody that's incompetent. But as a manager, our number one responsibility as a team leader, if you will, is to communicate with clarity and with credibility. And we give that credibility away when we don't speak with clarity.
Well, and other phrases on this list, blue sky thinking and touch base. I would also say, Lee, a lot of people were mocking the phrase circle back, in the last year. And I find that interesting because looking through the results of this survey, a lot of the workers are saying, look, I don't think you know what you're talking about, so you are just saying stuff you heard on the internet, right? I mean, that's the problem with cliche, isn't it?
That's right. Out of abundance of caution, for you. I mean, we're all sick and tired of hearing that one,
right?
But yeah, it's like, and I don't necessarily think that it's because necessarily they're incompetent. It's that they want to make themselves seem more impressive than they really are. I speak at a lot of sales conferences, and I spoke at one in Chicago a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And after my presentation on sales credibility, I was listening to some of the chatter during the break. And it was everyone throwing around these big, sketchy words, trying to impress each other, acting like they're smarter than everybody else. When in reality, then, it's like if you really know what you're talking about, you'll be able to use plain English and be able to communicate so that everybody understands what you're talking about, and that way you can make yourself heard.
And Lee, you know what comes to mind while you and I are talking? I just finished watching the series The Dropout, which was about Elizabeth Holmes founding Theranos and becoming a billionaire, producing a product that didn't work, the blood testing product. And she keeps going around during the show saying, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? And I'm like, you're failing. You've got to be able to acknowledge that stuff. There's some belief systems we can get into in business, isn't there, Lee, that are actually harmful to us?
Well, absolutely. I mean, because failure is an option, despite that other cliche. And
right.
Another area is like look, it's like I'm as excited as anybody else that IndyCar is coming back to Iowa this summer. I cannot wait. but not everyone loves sports the way I do. So a lot of the metaphors that get thrown around in business are sports related. So it's like next time you want to huddle up, for fear that corporate's going to move the goalpost and you have to throw a Hail Mary. It's like, understand that everyone else who doesn't have a sports background or doesn't love sports as much as you do, those phrases are lost on them and they're just empty sounding. And again, you've missed the opportunity to convey a message that you need to convey so that you can be heard.
So, Lee, of course, the way to end this conversation is to ask you, what do the workers want? What should we keep in mind when we push away the cliches?
Workers just want you to keep it real. They want you to speak with authenticity. They want you to speak from the heart, and they want human connection. Everybody these days wants more human connection after what we've been through the last couple of years. And so, if you can just speak to other people plainly, clearly, and empathetically, then that's all people are looking for, and that starts with getting rid of some of the empty phrases. As best we can, we're going to slip one or two in there from time to time. Just don't use them excessively.
Absolutely. They will slip in there. I mean, I think that's a little bit of grace, and I think Lee is right on with that. He's the CEO of SalesFuel. This is a great conversation, Lee. Thanks very much. Looking forward to seeing you in Iowa for IndyCar this summer.